to the Dr. Nikki Starr Show, a podcast to support you in your spiritual awakening and personal development. As a spiritual teacher, healer, and intuitive coach, my intention is to empower you to live your ultimate potential and your ultimate life. As a former medical doctor and mystic, my role is to bridge the gap between science and spirituality to support you in understanding more of your multidimensional aspects. I share on a diverse range of topics, and it's all to support your greatest becoming. My mission is to continue reaching millions of people for the healing and awakening of humankind for the creation of the new earth. Thank you for being here. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Dr. Nikki Starr Show. Today, we're going to be talking about karma, the truth about karma, how to, what's the right word? I don't want to say enhance your karma, but let's say bring your karma into spiritual alignment, into, if there were scales and there was like the good karma and the bad karma, let's tip it to the good karma winning. And we're going to talk about a lot of nuances of karma, like what it means, how you actually start racking up the points, ways to sort and clear your karma. And I'm laughing about it because I always like to take spirituality, especially like the serious stuff like shadow work or karma or things that could seem like, oh no, doomsday. I really like to take it with and talk about it with a light heart because firstly, I just want to applaud you for doing the work that you're doing. Even by you choosing to come and listen to a podcast episode like this is so beautiful. And it shows me the level and the depth of the spiritual work that you're doing, how you're willing to take responsibility. And that radical responsibility is so beautiful and is what supports your ascension in a more graceful, easeful way. So I applaud you. You are beautiful. You are amazing. You are wonderful. I love you. And all of humanity loves you too. Because if you care enough about writing your karma, meaning write, R-I-G-H-T, not W-R-I-T-I-N-G, you want to write things so that your karma is in good standing. Like that is such an admirable trait. And not everyone is willing to take responsibility for their life. And, that's like one of the rules of reality, of spirituality 101, which is we're creating everything about our reality and we're responsible for everything that happens in our reality. So when things are not going the way we desire them to go, sometimes it is worth looking at karma in order to see what may be creating obstacles. Now, that being said, even if you have a ton of negative karma, you still hold the power in this life. You are the most powerful person in your life. And even with a ton of baggage and a ton of bad karma, you could still overcome all of it and live your destiny and live your highest potential and live your heaven on earth. And I know this to be true because this is my work with people. And I have had clients who have overcome so many challenges. And I feel I am one of these too, one of these people who came into this life with a lot of karma, generational, familial, ancestral, even myself from past lives. And so I feel like we have an opportunity to always right the wrong. And that's what this episode is about. This episode is meant to empower you. So let's first talk about past life karma. So there's two kinds of karma. There's past life karma. There's the karma in this life, both past and present. And so we kind of have like these three kinds of karmas. And I want to talk about karma not from a religion perspective, but more from a universal truth and spiritual perspective, where we can define karma as kind of like the universal reaction to each and every one of your actions. So when you do a good deed, the universe responds. And this is a law of physics. This is a law of the universe, that there is an equal and opposite reaction to everything. So basically, it's like what you put out is what you get back. And that actually goes in every religion, to be honest. So every religion kind of speaks about this. And it's not because it's a religious thing, it's just a value thing. It's like a good person thing. It's like understanding that we're in constant communication with the quantum, with the universe, and whatever we're putting out, whatever we're saying, even what we're thinking is having an effect, and that we're manifesting all the time. And so episodes like this are meant to empower you. So when you feel empowered and you know, like, okay, I have the power in my hands, like what I do, what I say, how I act, how I speak, is going to have an effect on the world. And that's why operating from honesty and truth is so important. And also doing good deeds, and also doing good deeds in relation to others, and sometimes doing selfless acts. And this gets a little bit into how we can start to clear up and clean up our karma. So let's first get into past life karma. So maybe you were this conscious in a past life, maybe not. Oftentimes, things that may happen to you in this life are because of things that you did to others in a past life. And that's one easy way to say how karma works. So let's say if you had something stolen from you, could be in this life or a past life, someone stole something from you. And basically, every time you go to villainize someone for something that they've done against you, somehow they've trespassed or disrespected you in some way, have a compassionate heart, because it's possible that you did it in a past life. And this is simply karma rearing its head. And now, for the energetic tabs of the universe to be equal, you are now receiving your part of karma. And so this is why it's so important for us to hold high compassion. Of course, it's not right when things happen to us that are not ideal, but also keep in mind, you don't know if you did that in a past life or a version of it. And oftentimes when, let's say if things happen to children, so let's say when people are like, I don't understand, like, why did that child get cancer? So part of our destiny has to also do with our karma. And sometimes we serve a greater mission in our life that is even beyond us. It's like a selfless act in a way. So someone could choose to come into this life and as a child get cancer, and it could have a positive effect on the world. And it could be part of them repaying back a karma in a past life, or it could just be the karmic contract that they decided to take on. And I know beautiful stories where families created cancer foundations for children because of their children, and they came from a wealthy family. And so their child was this inspiration to start a movement for less fortunate families. And it's like that bittersweetness, it's sad that that happened to that family, whereas at the same time, beauty came from it. So we never want to judge situations and what they mean until we can really see the bigger picture and the impact that it makes on the greater whole. And that's the thing about karma. It's kind of inclusive of everything and everyone, all beings and things. And that's why, like, I'm even mindful, like, I get so upset when people cut down trees because there's karma connected to that. The trees serve an important function. And yes, sometimes it is needed for development, but I also believe that there's a way to co-create with nature and create living and housing in a way that we can keep the trees that are there instead of cutting them down and replanting them. It does take more intentionality, but it allows for better symbiosis with nature. So every single action we do to any being and thing is tallied in our karma. And so where there are kind of like, not like excuses, but where you're kind of exempt from karma is when you are honestly totally innocent. It's like when you did something, like, did you ever like break a law and didn't know it was a law? Or you like parked somewhere and you really didn't know you couldn't park there, and then you got the ticket and then it was like, but I really didn't know. Whereas when you parked somewhere and you knew you were parking in an illegal spot and you got a ticket, you're kind of like, all right, well, I deserved it. I knew that that wasn't where I should park. So what I believe and what I've seen and what I felt energetically is when there's true innocence, where someone does something and maybe it did have an effect that wasn't maybe so positive, but the person clearly did not know, no part of their consciousness, like there wasn't any part of the mind that was like, I know this is wrong, but I'm going to do it anyway. There was no part of that. It was literally like, I literally thought I was doing a good thing. I did not have malice intent behind those actions. Those words came from true good intent. And I'm sorry that it had a bad outcome. I believe this does not count in your karma tally, but you can't feign being dumb and not knowing, because the universe knows and you know that you know. So when you know that something is wrong, ideally you don't do it, right? If you know that something is not honest, you choose not to do it. And this is how you prevent those karma tallies. Now, some people say, well, who cares? I'll just deal with it in my next life. But that's the thing about karma. Yeah, we spoke about the past life karma and then how it affects you in this life, but also there's real-time karma. If you do something in this life, your karma can pay you back in this life. You don't have to wait till the next life. So it's not guaranteed that like, oh, I'll just deal with it in my next life. No, it's right now in real time. So if you've ever found you're walking uphill, like you're on this uphill battle, things are challenging, there's a lot of obstacles. And if you've experienced that, you may want to look at your karma and ways to clear it. And right now in this moment, choosing to operate from highest karma, doing what really is for the highest and best good of all. And when you're in doubt, that's a good frame of reference. Like, is this action for the highest and best good of all? Is what I'm about to say is for the highest and best good of all? If it's not, if anything is ever intentionally to hurt or insult another person, clearly that is going to be negative karma. But if you're like not sure, you can just ask, like, is this for the highest and best good? And sometimes there is this fine line between, like, of course you want to speak your truth, but there's ways to do that that are still serving everyone, that can still come from a loving and compassionate place. And so this podcast really serves the creation of the new earth, because if we're all being mindful of karma right now, starting today, every day and every moment, and we become so self-aware and we start to watch our thoughts, watch our beliefs, what we say about people, even what we think about people. And I even want to share a few ways that you can, in real time, shift and negate the karma. So let's say if you are scrolling through social media and you have a judgment thought about someone, or you're speaking and you suddenly start speaking judgments or not nice things, and you catch yourself. First of all, congratulations. I applaud you that you catch yourself. That's amazing. What you can do is say, but, and then say a compliment about the person and bless them, and say, I take back what I said. You can take back actions and apologize for them, and take it back, apologize to their soul, send them a blessing, thank them. And another way that you can start to clear karma in real time is to do good deeds just because. So for example, if you have a nice thought, a generous thought, like, oh, let me buy this for that person. Let me send that compliment. Let me say something nice. Let me do something nice. I know my grandmother needs some help. Let me go food shopping for her. Whatever. Something that doesn't serve you, but serves another. That's a way you can start to negate the negative karmas and build the good karmas. The same is true with devotional acts. So if you ever went to an ashram, so I first experienced this when I went to an ashram in the Bahamas. And at the ashram, there was something called karma yoga. So everyone who stayed at the ashram had to sign up for a time to do some kind of work. So when you work for the community, for the others, so that could be like cleaning, or that could be cooking, or that could be some kind of devotional acts. And you often see this in ashrams because oftentimes people are cleaning the ashram as part of karma yoga. This is a way you can negate negative karmic acts, because you're taking this time, you're giving energy in selfless service. Another way is through, I guess I can call them like sacrifices or spiritual practices. So for example, if you wanted to do fasting, like not eat for a certain amount of days as a way to pay back some karmas, or you wanted to do like a mantra practice for 40 days, that's a way to negate some of your karma. And this uses grace, especially if you're working with certain goddesses or deities and you're working with energies like divine energies that help you to clear these karmas. You can also give a form of a donation. It's some kind of like sacrifice on your behalf through some kind of rigorous practice, or somewhere that you're like giving up some kind of comfort. That's another way that you can start to negate karmas. Another way is even through certain rituals where there are some, so when we get into certain lineages, there are like puja rituals. There's also different fire rituals. Like I do fire rituals with my clients who come for in-person retreats or any in-person sessions, as well as in my rituality course, I talk about different types of rituals to clear certain energies. So when you're doing energetic clearings, you can start to include your karmas along with forgiveness rituals. So when you forgive people and absolve them of their karmas, that's a way that you can clear your karmas. So if you notice, every way that we've been talking about is kind of like doing good deeds and acts towards other people and doing good things that could help others and could support life and support connection and support goodness. And so, of course, the first step is always, okay, mindfulness. Like, is this for the highest and best good of all? Is this coming from love? You can kind of check yourself. But then, of course, you may have karmas accrued from before you were as spiritually awake as you are now, from before you even cared about this stuff. But now you care about it and you're like, okay, well, I'm conscious of these things. How can I start to clear them? And so that's a beautiful list of how you can, in the right now moment, start to clear your karmas. And what's so important when you do this work is to also to minimize shame and blame and thinking that like you're a bad person or any of that, because that doesn't help anything. What's so important as you're like working through karma is to have self-compassion. So the other form of karma where also you require compassion is your family and ancestral karma. And this is important to talk about now because it's important for you to know that you influence 7 generations to come. And your ancestors 7 generations back influence you. And so if your ancestors have any form of karma built up, you can inherit this. And we can do energetic work to clear ourselves. And we're going to do this in the bonus content along with some other ways of clearing karma. And so in the bonus content, you're going to be guided through a process to clear karma. And it's going to be a process that's past life, present life, ancestral. It's going to be very multifaceted, very beautiful healing. So I invite you into that. And it's important to have compassion for our ancestors because a lot of times they were in survival mode. We're coming into more conscious and enlightened times, but our ancestors like didn't know any better. Like, for example, in my lineage, there's black magic. And even it was done within the family towards people. You know, I come from a Colombian lineage of shamans and healers, and there was all kinds of that wild stuff going on. And so it was fascinating when I started my spiritual journey and I went to different healers and shamans, and they were like, you come from this. And even being told that there's like generational curses and other karmas that I inherited, a big part of my spiritual journey was clearing these. And how I knew that they presented is because there were so many obstacles that were presenting that just like didn't make sense. And oftentimes, as I mentioned, when we feel those obstacles, we feel that uphill battle, it could be us battling against the karmas. Now, remember, that does not mean that we're not going to succeed. We absolutely are going to succeed, especially when we reclaim our power. We decide that we are powerful and that we can create anything we want in our lives. And sometimes it just takes a little bit of extra work, extra spiritual work. And it's good for us in a way. It's humbling to do the karmic clearing work. It's humbling to do acts of service for other people where there's no benefit for you. It's humbling to do some of the practices. And I don't like to use the word sacrifice, but I would say that it gives you that spiritual grit and rigor when you do a 40-day mantra practice, when you do fasting, because and it's actually good for your body when you fast. It's good for your commitment, your discipline, your consistency when you do a 40-day mantra practice, plus all the grace and the miracles that you receive from practices like this. Like, I remember when I did a monk path, and there was a lot of rules, like things you can do, things you can't do, how many times a day you can eat, how many not, and what's funny is with all those rules, I actually found peace. Like, it was like there wasn't so much to think about. I had a schedule, a program to stick to. In that time, there was no talking to men, no engaging in any way. And life kind of became simpler. It was like, I can just be with myself. Even in that time, I was cleaning temples and I liked it. And I remember even saying to myself, do all the things you don't want to do. So that's another invitation to you is for your spiritual growth, where are you resisting something that if you kind of just did it, that maybe you would receive some kind of benefit from it. Sometimes us doing hard things or things that we don't want to do or things that are uncomfortable, it gives us power and energy because then we know we can do hard things. And especially when we're doing things for the greater good of other, or even with the intention to absolve our negative karma because we want to do good in the world and we want to raise the frequency of the planet and we want to do good for our children and the generations to come. I know so much of my healing and so many of the choices I make today are because I'm thinking of my future generations and I have a responsibility there. And I'm here for the co-creation of the new earth and for the trajectory of the planet to go in a positive direction. And so I thank you for doing this great work. I know it's not for the faint of heart. I really recommend my 40 Days of Kali, my spirituality course, and my rituality course if you're looking for ways to work with your karmas and your shadows. And then, of course, I'll see you inside the bonus content for another way. And there's always one-to-one work if you want support in clearing your karma as well. And so with that, I send you so much love. I thank you for doing this work, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Dr. Nikki Starr Show. Please like this podcast and share it with anyone you feel would benefit. Subscribe to the podcast to receive bonus content. And remember, every Monday, the video version goes live on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for being on the ascension path with me and for doing this great work.